He's been listening. For 11 seasons, Frasier Crane sat behind that microphone at KACL and told the world he was ready to help. What he never mentioned was what was happening just off camera. A dog who refused to bond with anyone on set, a brother who wasn't supposed to exist, a co-star fired before a single episode aired, who became one of the most famous actresses in television history, and a chair so deliberately ugly it became iconic. Today, 15 facts about Frasier, from a theme song nobody decoded for 30 years, to a father who was dead until the writers needed him alive. Stick around for the bonus. It involves sardine oil, liver pâté, and the most manipulative performance in sitcom history, delivered by none of the human cast. Frasier ran from 1993 to 2004, 37 Primetime Emmy Awards, a record that stood 12 years until Game of Thrones broke it. Not bad for a half-hour comedy about a pompous psychiatrist living with his working-class father. Almost none of it was supposed to work. The lead was a supporting player on another show. The most important character wasn't in the original plans. The dog hated everyone. None of it should have worked. All of it did. Fact 1. The nightmare dog who became television's biggest star. Before Moose became one of TV's most beloved performers, his owners described him as an absolute disaster. He climbed trees to escape the yard, killed a neighbor's cat, destroyed 2 entire houses through sustained chaos. His family surrendered him to trainer Mathilde Depuguet, who recognized raw intelligence with nowhere to go. Within months, the dog who had been too much for a regular household was performing complex commands with impressive accuracy. When casting began for Frasier, Moose's expressive face got him the role immediately. The nightmare dog had become a professional actor, and the most popular one on the show. Fact 2. The character who wasn't supposed to exist. Niles Crane didn't exist anywhere in the original plans. Then David Hyde Pierce walked in to audition for a different part, and the casting directors stopped cold. Pierce's resemblance to a younger Grammer was almost eerie. Someone said the obvious. He looks like he could be Grammer's brother. The show was restructured around that observation. Niles, equally pretentious, equally cultured, somehow even more neurotic, became so central to the show's success that it's impossible to imagine Frasier without him. Created entirely by accident, based on nothing but one actor's face. Fact 3. The actress fired before filming, and what happened next. Before Perry Gilpin became Roz, Lisa Kudrow had already been cast and was actively rehearsing. By day 3, the producers saw a problem. Kudrow's gentler approach would leave Roz overshadowed, rather than equal to Frasier. They let her go. Gilpin came in with a more assertive delivery, and the dynamic locked immediately. What happened to Kudrow? Friends premiered the following year. Being fired from Frasier may have been the best thing that ever happened to her career. Fact 4. The theme song nobody understood for 30 years. Tossed salads and scrambled eggs sounds like warm, pleasant nonsense. For 30 years, most audiences assumed it was exactly that. Producers banned any reference to psychiatry, radio, or the show's title. Grammer's solution: tossed salads and scrambled eggs as a metaphor for the mixed-up, jumbled people calling into the show. Minds in disarray, lives thrown together without order. He kept the language abstract enough that viewers assumed it was whimsy. For over a decade, audiences sang along to a coded description of psychiatric practice. Almost no one noticed. Fact 5. The chair built to be offensive. Martin's recliner was custom-built with one explicit goal: make it as visually offensive as possible. The design team found original 1970s upholstery in a shade of olive green the decade itself might have reconsidered. Not fabric that looked vintage, but fabric that actually was, sitting in storage for 20 years. For contrast, Frasier's apartment contained art and furniture worth approximately $500,000. Every time Martin's chair appeared in the middle of that elegance, it was exactly as jarring as intended. It was the best piece of furniture in the apartment. Everyone knew it. Fact 6. Kelsey Grammer's deliberate disrespect. Grammer rehearsed each scene exactly once, then learned his lines in the minutes before cameras rolled. His requisite disrespect for the material. He believed knowing lines too well made delivery mechanical. Guest stars arrived having memorized their scenes and found a co-star who seemed almost casual about preparation. Some found it generative. Others found it unprofessional. None of them could argue with the results. Fact 7. 20 consecutive years as the same character. Grammer first played Frasier Crane in 1984 on Cheers, originally for a handful of episodes. The character stayed through Cheers' remaining seasons. Then Frasier launched in 1993 and ran until 2004. 20 consecutive years, one character. No recasting, no interruption. When the show ended, Grammer's run tied the longest character portrayal in American television history. Fact 8. The Space Needle that kept disappearing. Frasier was set specifically in Seattle. The apartment was positioned to suggest a view of the Space Needle. In some episodes, it was clearly visible. In others, it had simply vanished. No explanation offered. Different painted backdrops used at different times, not all of which included the landmark consistently. A show that prided itself on precision couldn't keep its most famous building in the same place twice. A character invented from one actor's face. A theme song encoding a psychiatric metaphor nobody decoded for 30 years. A chair custom built to be offensive. That became the most beloved object in the apartment. And we're not halfway through. Still coming. The dog who received more fan mail than Kelsey Grammer. And exactly how Grammer felt about it. The father who was dead until the writers needed him alive. And the bonus, a technique so absurd the cast never fully got used to it across 11 seasons. Fact 9. The dog who outfanned the star. Moose received more fan mail than Grammer, Pierce, Mahoney, or anyone else, significantly more, week after week. In 1996, Entertainment Weekly put him on the cover alone, unprecedented for a television animal performer. Grammer was open about resenting it. The irony was perfect. On screen, Frasier was constantly irritated by Eddie's scene stealing. Off camera, Grammer experienced the same genuine annoyance his character was performing for laughs. Life was imitating art. The dog was winning both versions. Fact 10. The father who was dead until he wasn't. On Cheers, Frasier had stated clearly and repeatedly that his father was dead. Then Martin Crane appeared in the pilot, alive and ready to move in. The writers eventually explained it. Frasier had lied during a painful argument, emotionally disowning Martin and maintaining that fiction for years. It technically works, but it also reveals something quietly devastating. A psychiatrist dedicated to helping others confront their emotional truths had spent years unable to acknowledge his own father's existence. Frasier was listening, just not always to himself. Fact 11. The celebrities who literally phoned it in. Kevin Bacon, Halle Berry, Stephen King, Carrie Fisher. Most of Frasier's celebrity callers never visited the production. They called a recording line and delivered their lines over an actual telephone, from wherever they happened to be. Some from payphones, others from their kitchen while making dinner. The slight distortion of a real phone line actually made the scenes more convincing. Some of the most memorable voices in Frasier history were recorded from somebody's kitchen on a Tuesday afternoon. Fact 12. The Emmy record that stood for 12 years. 37 primetime Emmys. Outstanding comedy series 5 consecutive years in a row. The Mary Tyler Moore Show's long-standing record shattered decisively. For 12 years, no show came close. Then, Game of Thrones won its 38th in 2016. A half-hour comedy about a radio psychiatrist held the all-time Emmy record for over a decade, outlasting every drama and prestige production that came after it. Fact 13. The father and son who couldn't share a room. As Moose aged, his son Enzo began taking over more demanding scenes. The problem? They genuinely could not stand each other. Sustained mutual hostility. They couldn't share a space without becoming aggressive. Production had to ensure the two dogs never overlapped on set. When Moose was working, Enzo waited elsewhere. When Enzo was needed, Moose had to leave first. The two dogs playing the same beloved character were, in private, mortal enemies kept apart at all times. Fact 14. The dog who felt nothing for anyone. Throughout 11 years, Moose didn't bond with a single cast member, didn't seek affection from Mahoney between takes, didn't play with anyone. His warmth existed exclusively for his trainer. Mahoney eventually stopped thinking of Moose as a dog and mentally categorized him as another actor. A colleague who showed up, delivered a precise performance, and went home without interest in the people around him. It was, Mahoney said, the only way to make sense of it. Fact 15. The plot hole hiding in plain sight. On Cheers, Frasier had stated his father was dead, clearly, repeatedly, as established fact. Then the spin-off needed a living father, and Martin Crane arrived. The writers explained it. Frasier had lied during a bitter argument, disowning Martin emotionally and maintaining that fiction for years without correction. It technically works, but it also reveals something the show never fully examined. A psychiatrist dedicated to helping others achieve self-awareness had spent years unable to acknowledge his own father's existence. Frasier spent 11 seasons helping strangers sort out their lives. The thing he couldn't sort out was sitting in that ugly chair the entire time. And now the bonus I've been saving for last. Moose had a signature move audiences loved, the stare. that long, unblinking gaze fixed directly at Frasier. Critics wrote about it. The cast played against it for 11 years. What audiences didn't know was how it was produced. For scenes requiring Eddie to show affection, to lick a cast member's face, the crew applied sardine oil directly to the actor's skin before cameras rolled, nearly invisible on screen. Irresistible to Moose, what looked like spontaneous fondness was a calculated scent delivery system. For scenes where Eddie needed to nuzzle against a neck or ear, liver pâté, applied behind the ear, hidden from the camera but perfectly positioned to draw Moose in. Every actor who shared a tender moment with Eddie knew exactly what was coming and had mentally prepared for the sensation of being enthusiastically licked while trying to stay in character. What viewers saw as a dog expressing love was a precisely engineered technique. The actors were, for the purposes of performance, functioning as human appetizers. Kelsey Grammer, who resented being upstaged by Moose, didn't particularly like the dog and had spent years watching Eddie receive more fan mail than him. Had sardine oil dabbed onto his face and waited for a dog who didn't care about him at all to lick it off on camera. Every single take.